Hi, I'm Dr. Hillary Lampers. I'm a naturopathic physician with a practice in Snohomish, Washington, which is just a little bit north of Seattle, Washington. I've been a naturopath for about 8 years, but I've been around naturopathic medicine since I was about 17 years old. I always like to tell my story about why I became a naturopath and maybe not a chiropractor or a medical doctor, and how my love for natural medicine is really more of a personal story. And so I love to share that with my patients, and I'll share that with you right now. When I was 17, I lived in Montana, and I had a very active lifestyle. I suffered a lot from chronic headaches, and I had suffered from chronic headaches since I was a child. Actually, when people ask me, how long did you have headaches? I can't really remember, because I believe that I had headaches before I could talk. You may ask, why did you have headaches at such a young age and what happened? And I guess, looking back on it and having more experience now in my field, is it could have been the fact that I was a forceps birth. My head was too big and they used forceps on me. When I was born, I had severe bruising in my head, especially on the right side of my face. And well, up until I was about in my early 20s, every time I cried or I went skiing and my eyes watered or anything like that, the right side of my face would turn purple. And the only explanation that they could give was that when they did the forceps birth, that they had bruised all the small parasympathetic nerves and capillary beds in my face. And so that reaction of crying or the eyes watering created that purple bruise. So that was really like my birthmark. Along with that birthmark came headaches, of course, and the feeling of a vice grip on my head all the time. I used to complain as a child to my mom that I just wanted somebody to take the vice grip off my head. Just take me to the doctor, and she took me to many doctors, and they just said, oh, she's making it up, or it's all in her head, or she'll grow out of it. And so I went on through my life with headaches, and I learned to live with them. My first exposure to a naturopath, I was 17 years old, and I ended up getting very ill in the small town that I lived in Montana. I went to many doctors again, and they couldn't figure out what was wrong with me. So my last chance was to go to the strange lady in town who named her children Moon and Rainbow and see what she could do, the local naturopath. She changed my life too, because she looked at me in a whole different way. She looked at me like a whole person. She looked at the stress that I had lived with as a child and the divorce of my parents and how it had affected me. She looked at the food that I was eating. She looked at my possible nutrient deficiencies. And she looked at the fact that I had been on antibiotics for most of my life related to chronic ear infections and possible headache treatment that they couldn't figure out. So drugs and antibiotics. So over a course of a year to 2 years, she totally transformed my health. It did take time. It wasn't overnight, but it transformed my health. And the illness that I had got better. Flash forward into my early 20s, I'm now living in Seattle. I'm a massage therapist. I'm a yoga teacher. You would look at me and you would think I was very healthy, but I still suffered with headaches. So even though I had totally changed my lifestyle, I had learned to manage my stress. I was eating healthfully. I was getting acupuncture. I was doing massage and learning. I had learned a lot of stress management from my previous illness. I still had chronic headaches. So at about the age of 24, I was thinking to myself, here I am, a healthy person, and I still feel horrible every day. And the truth is that a lot of you probably feel like that. You don't have anything that is so overwhelming that you can't go through your day and go to work and do stuff, but it's nagging you, and you know something's not right. And everybody you go see just continually tells you that, well, you're crazy, it's not true, it'll go away, take this drug. You know how that goes. So funny enough, the reason I'm sitting here is because in 1997, when I was that age, I was getting my hair cut by my hairdresser. And I was telling her, again, complaining that I was having these chronic headaches. And she said, there's this doctor, and he does this really strange treatment, but maybe it's worth you trying it. So I called the guy up and we chatted and we worked together for a few months. Of course, when I found out what he did, I was a little bit like, ooh, that sounds kind of strange. I don't know if I want to do that. Even for me, that's a little bit strange. But then I decided, and this is where I see a lot of my patients, you come to a place where you realize that nothing is worse than living with that chronic pain every day, that you could probably handle anything. And you realize that the conventional medical model is not working. And you're either going to end up a drug addict or you're going to end up dead. Because having chronic pain every day is very debilitating, not only to your body, but to your psyche. And so I went to him and I had this treatment done. And in the first treatment, it completely changed my life. I remember calling my mom up on the phone. And of course, at that time in my life, she was like, oh, what are you doing now? What treatment are you trying now? And I said, Mom, I had this cranial manipulation treatment done, and I don't have a headache. I don't have a headache. Oh, okay, honey, all right, all right. So I went through the 4-day treatment sequence, which is what it was. You had to go in for 1 day. I'm sorry. You had to go in 1 hour every day for 4 days in a row. And those 4 days have led me here. They eliminated my headaches to a point where I could start functioning in my life, and I started to see the bigger picture of what I was doing with my life. And so as a massage therapist, I started seeing patients every day who were having the same problems I was, and I realized I was just maintaining their problem. They had had head traumas, car accidents, massive stresses, emotional stresses, and they were coming for pain and headache and neck pain and all these things. And I realized that I wanted to make more of a difference than just maintaining people's problems. And so, you know, I was a late bloomer in my early 20s. I realized that I wanted to be a naturopath so that I could follow in the steps of the man who cured me, basically. I worked for him for 10 years as an assistant to him. For 4 of those years, I was his first assistant. So I traveled with him, I trained doctors with him, and I treated thousands of people with him, and I saw miracles. And that is what really encouraged me to go back to school to finish my bachelor's degree in my late 20s. And then I went to Bastyr University, which is one of the premier naturopathic medical schools in the United States and likely the world. And I was lucky enough to go there and finish schooling and get my naturopathic doctorate. And now I'm practicing full-time in the treatment that saved my life, basically. And the treatment is called neurocranial restructuring, and it's a cranial manipulation. It's an old osteopathic treatment that really changes the whole entire dynamic and structure of the head and the body. And as I put it, can take the vice grip off of your head. So that's my story, and that's why I'm here. I'm very passionate about naturopathic medicine because I believe that there are so many options out there. And unfortunately, many people don't know about all the options that are out there because, one, they either don't have access to it. I've worked in communities like that in states where it's very remote and they don't have access to good health care. And so they either don't have access to it, they don't know it, they don't understand it, or they completely believe the conventional model that's saying that these things can't help you. I know that lifestyle intervention, diet, exercise, mindfulness, friendship, love, all these things are actually the basis of our health. And what I love about naturopathic medicine is that it brings together so many different and unique modalities, but it also blends the simplicity of life and makes you go back to kind of your core, which is those simple things that we need every day to make us healthy. I always tell my patients, because I now see a lot of people that were like me, they were suffering. They're suffering for many years, and they've done everything, and they haven't found it yet. And I say, I don't profess that my treatment will cure you, but I do profess that there's something out there that will. And so, you know, the drive that you have to change your life is what's going to help you find that cure or that treatment or even that person that will hear you and help you there. So that's why I love naturopathic medicine.